Imagine a remote volcanic island, shrouded in mystery. On Easter Island, a team of scientists makes an astonishing discovery. A new Moai statue, nestled within the ancient crater of a long-dormant volcano. For years, experts believed they had meticulously catalogued every one of these iconic stone giants. But this find throws everything into question. The discovery not only adds another piece to the puzzle, but also challenges existing assumptions. First, consider this. The Moai were rarely solitary figures. This suggests that more of these imposing statues may lie hidden in the same vicinity, waiting to be unearthed. Secondly, and perhaps more significantly, this is the first Moai ever found submerged at the bottom of a lake. The scientists were engaged in a project aimed at revitalizing the marshland within the volcano's crater when they unexpectedly encountered the statue. The lake, which had existed for centuries, began to recede in 2018. For at least 2 or 3 centuries, it maintained a depth of nearly 10 feet, rendering it virtually impossible for anyone to construct or position a statue at its base. The prevailing theory suggests that the Moai are over 500 years old. It's conceivable that the Rapa Nui people, the master builders of these colossal figures, transported the statue to its watery resting place during a period when the lake had temporarily dried up. This newly discovered Moai stands just over 5 feet tall, making it smaller than many of its counterparts scattered across the island. It's a complete, full-bodied statue, boasting remarkably well-defined features. Researchers are planning radiocarbon dating to determine the statue's precise age. However, there are no plans to relocate it from its current location, respecting the wishes of the Rapa Nui community elders who believe it should remain undisturbed. For centuries, the Moai statues have confounded scientists and historians alike. While it was understood that these monumental figures were erected in honor of the island's chiefs, the rationale behind their specific placement remained an enigma. Most of the statues were strategically positioned along the coastline. But why? A team of researchers from Binghamton University in New York embarked on a mission to study the locations more meticulously, ultimately uncovering a fascinating connection to water. Easter Island's volcanic soil is exceptionally porous, readily absorbing rainwater. This results in a scarcity of streams and rivers, leading to a chronic shortage of readily accessible fresh water. Centuries ago, the island's inhabitants relied heavily on groundwater discharge as their primary source of potable water. The water, stored deep beneath the surface in layers of rock and soil known as aquifers, eventually finds its way to the surface. When this subterranean water emerges near the coast, it mingles with the salty seawater. However, the salt concentration remains sufficiently low, rendering the water safe for consumption. The islanders would directly collect this precious water from the points where it surfaced. It appears that the Moai were deliberately erected along the coast, in close proximity to these vital water sources. The connection is undeniable. The statues guarded the very essence of life on the island. The main bodies of the majority of the statues were crafted from volcanic tuff, sourced from a local quarry situated within what was once a thriving volcano. This material is relatively easy to carve, but transporting it posed a significant logistical challenge. This likely explains why researchers have unearthed over 300 unfinished Moai back at the quarry. The remaining statues stand sentinel in various locations facing the villages they were intended to protect. It appears that the statues were initially carved while lying on their backs. The sculptors would then detach them from the surrounding rock, carefully move them down the slope, and set them upright to complete the finishing touches. Once completed, the monumental task of transporting the statue to its designated platform commenced. We are talking about moving statues that weighed perhaps half as much as a single-story house, without the benefit of cars or any modern equipment, for a distance of several miles. The locals were forced to invent some ingenious transportation method. Scientists have attempted to replicate this feat, pulling Moai replicas on wooden sleds. Initially, it was believed that palm trees might have been used for this purpose, but this theory has since been discredited. The most successful experiment to date involved using ropes to rock the statue down the road in a standing position. This theory aligns with local Rapa Nui legends, which recount that the Moai walked from the quarry. Of course, such a journey would necessitate a well-maintained road, In the early 20th century, researcher Catherine Routledge discovered an 800-year-old road network on the island. This network consisted of a series of pathways, approximately 15 feet wide, radiating from the quarry. Routledge proposed that these roads served a ceremonial purpose, rather than being solely dedicated to the transportation of the statues. Unfortunately, Routledge's theory was largely dismissed by her contemporaries. Decades later, the renowned Norwegian adventurer and archaeologist Thor Heyerdahl put forth his own theory. He suggested that the roads were built exclusively for transporting the Moai, and that some of the statues were abandoned along the way for reasons unknown. However, in 2010, researchers discovered that the statues did indeed reach their intended destinations, as they were all positioned on hidden platforms. The road floor was U-shaped, making the task of pulling massive statues along them incredibly difficult. Today, roughly 15 miles of these ancient roads can still be found on the island, and they are even visible in satellite images. For a long time, scientists believed that the Rapa Nui people had rendered Easter Island uninhabitable through deforestation and unsustainable practices, ultimately leading to the collapse of their own civilization. However, a recent study employing remote sensing data and machine learning suggests a different narrative. The study indicates that the island's population did not experience runaway growth and subsequent collapse. Instead, the Rapa Nui adapted to their environment. Let's journey back to 1987, to a time when the past was waiting to be rediscovered. A dedicated researcher embarked on a mission to unearth a lost piece of history. His quest began with diligent research. Imagine a family, united by a shared passion, poring over brittle, yellowed newspaper clippings. This wasn't just a hobby. It was a treasure hunt of historical proportions. The team, led by our researcher and supported by his brother and father, meticulously collected every scrap of information they could find, not only about the ill-fated steamer, but also about the ever-shifting course of the Missouri River itself. Their investigation involved more than just reading old news. They were becoming river cartographers, tracking the Missouri's historical changes, cross-referencing dates, and painstakingly identifying a specific area where the steamer met its watery grave. Next came the science. Forget simple maps. This was a deep dive into the Earth itself. Using electromagnetic testing and various geological techniques, they scrutinized the soil, searching for subtle anomalies that would betray the steamer's location. They sought differences in ground moisture, variations in density, anything that hinted at a large sunken object beneath the surface. Finally, armed with powerful metal detectors, they systematically swept the territory, inch by painstaking inch. And then, in the fall of 1988, after months of relentless effort, they pinpointed it, the final resting place of the steamer Arabia. Picture this: a vessel the size of a football field, a colossal time capsule, lying buried 45 feet beneath a seemingly ordinary cornfield, 4 stories underground. But before the first shovel could break ground, they faced another hurdle: securing permission from the farmer who owned the land. For the farmer, it was an unexpected proposition. He agreed, but with a crucial condition. The entire excavation had to be completed before spring planting. This meant digging up a gigantic ship during the harsh winter months, a far more difficult and expensive undertaking. Imagine the scene: floodlights piercing the darkness, the constant hum of generators, and the tireless efforts of the team battling the elements. The excavation was financed entirely out of their own pockets. Each member invested over $10,000 and even took out bank loans, driven by an unwavering belief in their mission. Then, the moment of truth. The shovels struck something solid, the unmistakable signs of the ship itself. They had found the massive engine boilers, the ship's very deck. The goal, against all odds, had been achieved. Unlike most sunken ships, where cargo is often found encrusted in rust, shells, and mud, the contents of the Arabia were remarkably well preserved, a testament to the unique conditions of its burial. This was a time capsule unlike any other. While they didn't unearth chests overflowing with gold doubloons, they recovered tons of other invaluable cargo, the everyday household items of people who lived in the mid-19th century. The ship had been carrying supplies destined for 16 small towns along the Missouri River, and these items offered a glimpse into the lives of countless pioneers. Imagine holding a rubber shoe, still bearing the clear brand stamp of the Goodyear Rubber Company, a tangible link to the past. As the excavation progressed, the discoveries mounted. Barrels yielded pristine plates from the 1800s, still intact and usable. There were thousands of pairs of shoes, clean clothes, harpoons, frying pans, and even umbrellas, all perfectly preserved. While gold would have been a lucrative find, these artifacts were priceless in their own way. The estimated value of the ship's contents ran into the millions, but the team had no intention of selling their treasures. Instead, they transformed a former fruit market in Kansas City into a museum, a portal to the past. Step inside, and you are transported back to a 19th century department store. Thousands of items are on display, in astonishingly good condition. Even the matches are still dry enough to light. David dedicated years to curating the collection, meticulously presenting each item. He cherished every artifact and wanted to share them with the world. Now anyone can visit, purchase a ticket, and immerse themselves in a bygone era. Perhaps you never know, there's an old ship hidden beneath your own backyard, waiting to be discovered. But the story doesn't end there. In 2008, geologists made an extraordinary discovery in the arid Namibian desert. A ship, stranded far from the ocean, a relic from the age of pirates. Imagine a vessel that once sailed the seas in 1533, when pirates were the scourge of the ocean. This ship, departing from Lisbon, vanished with its crew near a small diamond mining town. After nearly 5 centuries, the hull was severely damaged, reduced to a mere skeleton. Yet the treasure hidden within remained miraculously intact. After careful study, the team discovered a large ancient chest nestled deep within the hold. With bated breath, they opened the chest and were greeted by the glittering sight of gold coins. The ship's value was estimated at around $10 million. The exact cause of the shipwreck remains a mystery, but experts theorize that a combination of heavy cargo and severe weather led to its demise. The ship sank to the bottom of a lagoon, which eventually transformed into a desert, leaving the vessel entombed in sand. While some find airplanes in their backyards, and others discover ships. One man in Turkey stumbled upon something truly extraordinary, a passage to an ancient, secret city hidden beneath his own home. In 1963, the owner of the building decided to renovate. He ventured into his basement, planning to knock down a wall and expand his living space. But behind that wall lay a tunnel, leading into the depths of the earth. Initially, the man believed he had found a secret chamber. But as he descended into the darkness, he realized it was something far grander, an entire ancient city stretching 18 stories deep. Built between 780 and 1180 AD, this subterranean metropolis served as a refuge from natural disasters and enemy invasions. The city was a labyrinth of underground tunnels. Imagine sprawling networks of secret passages, miles upon miles of them, spiderwebbing beneath the earth. These clandestine routes allowed the ancient inhabitants to access their town from countless concealed entry points. A city vast and meticulously planned, capable of sheltering approximately 20,000 souls, along with their livestock and staggering reserves of sustenance. Here, amidst the unearthed foundations, archaeologists have also identified the remnants of chapels, schools, stables, and communal kitchens, testaments to a thriving, organized society. Now, let's journey into the realm of legend, to the arid landscapes of Nevada, and delve into the captivating enigma of the ancient giants. Yes, you heard right. Giants. Tales abound of a race of colossal beings said to have roamed this land millennia ago. Skeptical? Perhaps. But intriguing archaeological discoveries continue to fuel the debate. Our focal point, Lovelock Cave. This location served as an ancient burial ground, and within its depths, skeletal remains of extraordinary size have been unearthed, bones that dwarf those of average humans. This cave lies nestled near the Humboldt Sink in western Nevada. Picture this. Eons ago, a vast lake dominated the region, which gradually receded, leaving behind a scattering of smaller bodies of water, including the Humboldt Sink, Lovelock Cave, according to local lore, became the final resting place of the Sita tribe. Legend speaks of red-haired giants so immense that the cave itself became their tomb. Indeed, subsequent archaeological expeditions have revealed skeletons measuring an astonishing 8 to 10 feet in height. The narrative began to coalesce in 1886 when a mining engineer named John T. Reed encountered the local stories. Upon entering the cave, Reed immediately recognized the significance of the site. News quickly spread, but the cave also attracted attention of a different kind. Deposits of guano, a highly valued fertilizer, were discovered within its confines. A mining company commenced excavations in 1911, ultimately shipping over 250 tons of the resource to San Francisco. Tragically, the pursuit of guano led to the neglect and loss of human remains and artifacts. This prompted formal archaeological digs in 1912 and 1924. Once the uppermost layer of guano had been extracted, a cascade of extraordinary objects began to emerge. The earliest evidence of human habitation stretches back approximately 4,000 years. The Lovelock culture thrived for roughly 3,000 years, leaving behind a treasure trove of over 10,000 artifacts. Imagine the pits within the cave as a series of time capsules, each layer revealing a different epoch. Archaeologists meticulously dated each pit based on its depth, uncovering a history of diverse groups utilizing the cave for storage across vast stretches of time. The items they stored offer an unparalleled glimpse into their culture. It is as if we are peering into a colossal, ancient storage unit brimming with hidden treasures. What else, besides the bones of giants, have researchers unearthed? Mummified bodies, preserved using techniques strikingly similar to those employed by the ancient Egyptians. These mummies also shared a curious characteristic with remains discovered as far south as Lake Titicaca: reddish hair. However, some scientists posit that the reddish hue is a result of environmental factors interacting with the remains over millennia. Therefore, while the tale of the red-haired giants remains a captivating enigma, not all are convinced. Some experts suggest that the bones found in Lovelock Cave may simply be the remains of prehistoric animals, such as mammoths or giant sloths. Others remain steadfast in their belief that a deeper mystery lies within. Adding to the intrigue, exquisitely crafted baskets and lifelike duck decoys fashioned from tule fibers have also been discovered. This cave undeniably warrants the attention it receives. And yes, you can visit Lovelock Cave today and witness the layers of history for yourself. Be warned, however. This is a hot, arid, and isolated place, far from civilization's embrace. Elsewhere, archaeologists believe they may have stumbled upon a discovery ripped straight from the pages of legend. The palace of Odysseus, the legendary Greek king of Ithaca, the hero of Homer's epic poem, the Odyssey. Forget Indiana Jones. This is real-life adventure unfolding before our eyes, dating back to approximately 1300 BCE. Remarkably, this is the only palace mentioned in Homer's epic poems that has remained undiscovered until perhaps now. The excavations conducted on the Ionian Islands have revealed ruins on the island of Ithaca that align precisely with the descriptions in the Odyssey, according to the professor leading the excavation. Known to the ancient Romans as Ulysses, the Greek hero famously endured a decade-long odyssey to return home to Ithaca after the fall of Troy. For many years, Homer's other epic, the Iliad, which recounts the protracted siege of Troy by the Greeks, was also dismissed as mere myth. However, in the 1870s, Troy was rediscovered in modern-day Turkey near the city of Çanakkale. If Troy, once considered a figment of imagination, could be found, why not the home of Odysseus? The researchers followed Homer's words as a roadmap, leading them to an excavation site revealing a sprawling building complex. Archaeologists have unearthed a fascinating complex, potentially a royal residence, structured on 2 distinct levels. Imagine stepping back in time and witnessing the hustle and bustle within its walls. Here, we see significant discoveries: storage chambers, bustling workshops, an intricate drainage system demonstrating advanced engineering for its time, and fragments of pottery offering glimpses into daily life, a well dating back to the 8th century BCE, adds another layer of intrigue, aligning with the era when, according to legend, Odysseus himself may have ruled. However, the identification of this site as the home of the legendary Odysseus is not universally accepted. A British researcher, Robert Bidstone, raises a compelling counterpoint. He argues that Homer's vivid descriptions of ancient Ithaca bear little resemblance to the island we now know by that name. Bidstone proposes an alternative theory, that Odysseus's kingdom was actually situated on the Isle of Cephalonia. In the midst of this debate, Italian archaeologist Adriano La Regina offers a pragmatic perspective. He suggests that regardless of whether this palace is directly linked to Odysseus, the true significance lies in the unearthing of this royal palace itself, a window into a bygone era of power and influence. Now, let's journey to another land, far to the west, where the Klamath Indians have passed down a captivating legend about the creation of Crater Lake. This isn't a story from a faraway continent, but one rooted in the heart of south-central Oregon in the western United States. The legend tells of a cataclysmic clash between two volcanic mountains, Mount Mazama and Mount Shasta. As the mountains roared, the spirits of the earth and sky joined the fray. Lau, ruler of the underworld, and Skell, the chief of the world above. Imagine the scene, a geological drama unfolding before your eyes. During this battle of titans, darkness enveloped the land. The conflict reached its climax when Mount Mazama, weakened by the struggle, collapsed, sending Lau plummeting back into the underworld. In the aftermath, torrential rains filled the void left by the fallen mountain, giving birth to the lake that now graces the landscape. Fast forward to the present day. Scientists have confirmed that Mount Mazama did indeed erupt approximately 7,700 years ago. Artifacts discovered in the surrounding area provide tangible evidence that the legend holds grains of truth. The tale speaks of red-hot rocks hurled through the sky, a vivid description of the volcanic eruption that triggered the mountain's collapse. This event formed a volcanic caldera, a vast crater that eventually filled with water, creating Crater Lake. What makes this legend-turned-reality so remarkable is its longevity. Researchers have found that oral traditions typically lose their accuracy within 600 to 700 years. The Crater Lake legend, however, has defied this trend. For countless generations, spanning centuries, the story has been passed down with remarkable fidelity. Today, the breathtaking Crater Lake resides within a national park. It's renowned for its mesmerizing deep blue hue and exceptionally clear waters. Should you visit, the water you gaze upon will be unique, distinct from that seen by visitors 250 years hence. This is because the lake has no rivers flowing in or out. The existing water evaporates, only to be replenished by rain and snowfall. In essence, the entire volume of water is replaced approximately every 250 years. Furthermore, with a depth of nearly 2,000 feet, Crater Lake stands as the deepest lake in the United States. Swimming is permitted, but access to the shore is restricted to a single, designated trail, ensuring safety and preservation. Other activities beckon, including fishing and boat tours. Shared human experiences, birth, marriage, aging, may explain the universality of certain narratives. Across cultures, similar struggles and triumphs give rise to common themes in traditional stories about love, family, and mortality. Perhaps you, too, have heard legends or tales passed down from your grandparents. Who knows? Your ancestors might have witnessed extraordinary historical events. Throughout the world, strange and wondrous artifacts are constantly being unearthed. Deciphering the lives and actions of our forebears, however, remains a formidable challenge, particularly when all that remains are fragmented relics and ancient cave paintings. It's little wonder that even seasoned experts sometimes stumble, and the mysteries aren't limited to mere pottery shards and megalithic stones. Sometimes the discoveries involve human remains with unusually large skulls. So, let's grab our metaphorical digging tools and embark on a journey back to ancient times, exploring enigmatic societies that continue to baffle even the most knowledgeable scientists. The island of Sardinia may appear idyllic in the present day, but imagine venturing there 3,000 years ago. Legend has it that colossal giants roamed this land. Tales persist of human skeletons exceeding 13 feet in height being discovered. While concrete proof remains elusive, these stories ignite the imagination, especially when considering the strange events that have transpired on the island. In 1974, a staggering 5,000 fragments of broken stone artifacts were unearthed in Monte Prama, a region of Sardinia. Instead of being promptly displayed in a museum, these artifacts were mysteriously locked away in an underground vault for nearly 3 decades. This secrecy certainly raises eyebrows, doesn't it? Finally, in 2005, these long-hidden fragments were unveiled. Scientists painstakingly pieced them together, revealing remarkable statues. Imagine standing before a collection of 38 colossal figures, each one a staggering 8 feet in height. While not quite reaching the legendary stature of mythical giants, these are still undeniably imposing. Historians believe these statues were sculpted by the Nuragic people, an ancient civilization that once thrived on this island. Beyond these giant statues, the Nuragic also constructed over 8,000 monumental stone structures, hinting at a culture that clearly favored the grandiose. Perhaps they weren't giants themselves, but their creations certainly were. Speaking of grand scales, imagine a massive number of likes on our videos. That would be truly spectacular. Now let's delve deeper into the past. While we consider ourselves intelligent beings, the truth might be more humbling. Fossil discoveries dating back to 1913 in South Africa suggest the existence of a potentially superior intellect, the Boskop man. This hominid species, resembling humans, may have existed as recently as 10,000 years ago. Their fossilized skulls indicate significantly larger cranial capacities, suggesting brains roughly 30% larger than our own. Imagine that, an average IQ potentially reaching 149, placing them among the top 0.05% of minds today. But a crucial question arises. If Boskop man possessed such superior intelligence, why did they vanish while we thrived? The answer, perhaps, lies in the complexity of brain structure. While their brains were larger, ours have evolved specialized regions, particularly the prefrontal cortex. This area is crucial for advanced cognitive functions, decision-making, short-term memory, and self-awareness. Perhaps the Boskop focused too much on abstract thought and not enough on practical skills like hunting and survival. However, this remains speculation. The fate of these intelligent cousins remains shrouded in mystery. Some even argue that Boskops were not distinct from Homo sapiens, with the debate hinging solely on fragmented skull remains. Picture yourself transported to the heart of the Amazon rainforest, a realm teeming with life. Did you know that this immense jungle houses roughly 30% of the world's plant and animal species? It's a testament to nature's boundless creativity. Yet, the story of humanity's presence within this lush environment has long puzzled researchers. The enigmatic Kasarabi people thrived here for centuries before mysteriously disappearing around 1400 AD. For a long time, it was believed that the Amazon was only inhabited by scattered tribes. However, recent discoveries have unveiled vast and peculiar earthworks known as geoglyphs. At first glance, they might seem like simple ditches, but they are in fact remnants of an extensive civilization that once spanned over 5,000 square miles, encompassing nearly 450 distinct markings, some stretching up to 2,300 feet in width. That is the length of almost 4 football fields. These geoglyphs likely served as foundations for ceremonial structures and may have supported a population of up to 1 million people as recently as 550 years ago. Advanced technologies, such as LiDAR, are allowing us to explore deeper into the rainforest without causing harm. LiDAR utilizes safe laser beams to map the forest floor, revealing hidden secrets. In 2019, LiDAR scans uncovered miles of elevated roads, pathways, and even pyramids reaching heights of over 70 feet. 26 distinct settlements were identified, with 2 exceeding 250 acres each. That's the equivalent of 330 soccer fields. The fate of the Kasarabi people remains uncertain. Perhaps they succumbed to diseases brought by European conquistadors, or maybe internal conflicts led to their downfall. Now, let's consider perhaps the most elusive ancient civilization, Atlantis. This legendary city, swallowed by the ocean depths, has captivated imaginations for centuries. The earliest accounts of Atlantis originate from the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, who described a magnificent city situated near the Strait of Gibraltar. For centuries, many dismissed Atlantis as nothing more than a fictional creation, a utopian vision crafted by Plato to mirror his ideal Athens. So why, some 12,000 years after its supposed demise, does the allure of Atlantis persist? In the 19th century, U.S. Congressman Ignatius Donnelly published a book presenting 13 compelling reasons to believe that Atlantis was more than just a myth. Then, in 1965, excitement surged when some believed they had discovered Atlantis in the form of the Riche structure, a massive dome-shaped formation spanning 25 miles in Mauritania, Africa. Its sheer size is so immense that it is visible from space. Astronauts orbiting the Earth gazed upon this colossal eye, staring back at them from the Sahara Desert, sparking hopes of a monumental discovery. Alas, no conclusive evidence connects the Riche structure to Atlantis. Scientists believe it formed through volcanic activity approximately 100 million years ago. Yet its uncanny appearance continues to fuel speculation. The truth remains elusive. Imagine yourself transported back to approximately 3300 BCE, finding yourself in the heart of South Asia. Here, you would witness the flourishing Harappan civilization. The Harappan people were remarkably advanced for their time. Their cities, such as Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, boasted impressive infrastructure. Baked brick houses lined well-planned streets, sophisticated drainage systems ensured sanitation, and even public bathhouses offered communal hygiene. Imagine a world far removed from our own, a time when bustling cities thrived, not in our familiar landscapes, but in places now lost to the sands of time. Let's journey back to the era of the Harappan civilization, a society that flourished around 2500 BCE in the Indus Valley. Picture this: over 5 million souls calling this region home, making it one of the most densely populated areas on Earth at that time. These weren't just simple settlements. The Harappans were innovators. They devised a system of standardized weights, a crucial tool that streamlined trade and commerce. Imagine the bustling marketplaces, the exchange of goods facilitated by this ingenious invention. Their trade networks stretched far and wide, reaching all the way to the Middle East, fueled by their mastery of metallurgy. They even employed a form of ancient branding, using seals to stamp clay on traded goods, a mark of authenticity in a world without modern packaging. Despite their advanced urban lifestyle, a veil of mystery shrouds their language and script. We possess fragments of their writing, yet even with our modern technology, no one has managed to decipher them. The secrets of their texts remain locked away, a challenge that continues to baffle archaeologists. Furthermore, the intricacies of their social structure remain elusive. Unlike other civilizations that flaunted their status through grand palaces and imposing monuments, the Harappans seem to favor practicality over ostentation. Their largest buildings might have been granaries, prioritizing the well-being of their people over displays of power. But like all great civilizations, the Harappan era eventually drew to a close. Around 1800 BCE, a decline began, potentially triggered by shifts in river patterns. Imagine the life-giving waters changing course, leaving fertile lands parched and forcing the Harappans to seek more hospitable environments. As the land transformed, they packed up their belongings and migrated, leaving behind the once thriving cities of the Indus Valley. Now, let's transport ourselves to another captivating realm, the island of Crete, home to the Minoans during the Bronze Age. Have you ever heard the tale of the Minotaur, the fearsome creature with the head of a bull and the body of a man lurking within a vast labyrinth? This wasn't just a simple story. It was a cultural phenomenon, one of the most popular dramas of the ancient world, and it drew its inspiration from the Minoan civilization. Imagine stunning palaces adorned with vibrant frescoes, a culture so rich and sophisticated that it continues to captivate historians to this day. They constructed magnificent complexes like Knossos, a sprawling structure with multi-story buildings and intricate hallways. It's easy to see how this architectural marvel could have inspired the myth of the labyrinth, a maze so complex that it trapped even the bravest heroes. Their engineering prowess was centuries ahead of its time. Consider their drainage systems, more advanced than what many of us have today. The Minoans were true innovators, shaping the landscape and their society with ingenuity and skill. Now picture this. You're strolling down a familiar street when an unusual sight catches your eye. It's an antique shop with a peculiar name, Ageless Trinkets of Mr. Bright. Intrigued, you step inside, your curiosity piqued by the assortment of oddities within. As you browse, a folded parchment map grabs your attention. It depicts the world, but something is clearly amiss. Instead of the familiar continents and countries, it displays the locations of 4 mythical lost worlds and civilizations. Just then, Mr. Bright, the shop owner, approaches. Sensing your astonishment, "This map won't lead you to these places," he says with a knowing smile. "But I can share the legends behind them, if you wish." He begins with the most famous of them all, Atlantis. You might know Atlantis as the underwater kingdom of Aquaman, but the fictional island first appeared in the writings of Plato. According to him, Atlantis was a highly advanced civilization that flourished approximately 9,000 years before his time, its story passed down through generations of poets and writers. Plato used the tale of Atlantis to impart a moral lesson, highlighting the dangers of arrogance and the inevitable downfall of those who crave excessive power. In Plato's dialogues, Atlantis is portrayed as a great and mighty empire, respected throughout the world. Founded by beings who were half god and half human, it rose to become a formidable naval power. The island was rich in gold, silver, and other precious metals, which undoubtedly contributed to its prosperity. But beyond its wealth, Atlantis was renowned for its breathtaking architecture, state-of-the-art technology, and a diverse array of rare and exotic animals. The Atlanteans were immensely proud of their achievements and the perceived perfection of their civilization. However, their hubris ultimately led to their demise. Believing themselves superior, they sought to dominate all nations, launching a series of invasions and conquering vast territories in the Mediterranean. But when they attempted to conquer Athens, the Athenians fiercely resisted, pushing back with unwavering strength. The Atlanteans were defeated. According to Plato, the gods, angered by the Atlanteans' wickedness, greed, and immorality, unleashed earthquakes and floods, causing Atlantis to sink beneath the waves. Although Plato's writings are the earliest known accounts of Atlantis, some have long believed his story to be rooted in reality, attempting to identify the island with actual locations. Some have suggested it was situated in the Mediterranean Sea, near the coasts of Spain or Italy, while others have looked to other corners of the globe. Speculation once placed the lost city of Atlantis somewhere in the Caribbean, perhaps nestled off the coasts of Central or South America. But concrete evidence? It remained elusive, a phantom in the depths. Yet one theory emerged, shimmering with a peculiar plausibility. Picture the Aegean Sea, cradling the island of Santorini. Millennia ago, this was the heart of a sophisticated Minoan civilization. Then, disaster struck. A colossal volcanic eruption, a cataclysm that occurred roughly 3,600 years ago. The Minoan world vanished, swallowed by the earth and sea. The echoes between Plato's Atlantis and the historical fate of the Minoans made Santorini a compelling, if imperfect, candidate. The timeline, however, presented a significant challenge. Plato's account of Atlantis' destruction didn't align with the timeline of Santorini's volcanic demise. And so, Atlantis remains, for the scientific community, a captivating legend. Now, let's shift our gaze northeastward across the map. Imagine, if you will, the Celtic lands of Brittany in France. According to local mythology, a magnificent city once stood, known as Ye, or sometimes as Caris. It reigned supreme over Dwarna Bay, a beacon of wealth and prosperity along the Atlantic coast. Its gardens were legendary, its buildings breathtaking, and its citizens lived in comfort and joy. The tale centers on Dahut, daughter of King Gradlon. She possessed an unyielding love for the sea and implored her father to build a city at the water's edge. Thus, Ye was born. But fate is a fickle mistress. Unbeknownst to Dahut, she would become the instrument of its destruction. The city, embraced by the sea, depended on a complex system of dikes and floodgates for its survival. These gates, crucial for holding back the relentless ocean, could only be opened at low tide. And the sole guardian of the keys was the king himself. One fateful day, a mysterious knight, clad in crimson armor, arrived at the city gates seeking entry. Dahut, captivated by his presence, resolved to grant him passage. Knowing her father possessed the only key, she crept into his chambers and stole it. She delivered the key to the Red Knight, allowing him to breach the city's defenses and enter her world. But the knight was not what he seemed. He was a harbinger of darkness, a prince of shadows. With malevolent intent, he left the floodgates open, exposing the city to the wrath of the ocean. A monstrous wave surged in, engulfing Ye in a watery grave. King Gradlon, astride his enchanted steed, managed to escape the deluge. Dahut, however, was not so fortunate. Transformed into a siren, a creature of the deep, she forever haunts the waters, luring unsuspecting sailors to their doom. Today, travel to Quimper, a city in Brittany, northwest France, and you can witness the imposing statue of King Gradlon, forever mounted on his valiant horse. The city of Ye may be lost to the mists of legend, but the locals of the Brittany coast whisper that on calm days, if you listen closely, you can still hear the faint tolling of the city's submerged bells, resonating from the depths of the sea. Our journey now takes us to the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean. Have you ever heard of Lemuria? In the mid-1800s, certain scientists proposed the existence of a lost continent, a landmass submerged beneath the waves, somewhere south of modern-day Sri Lanka. The British lawyer and zoologist Philip Lutley Sclater championed this theory most prominently. In his paper, The Mammals of Madagascar, he noted a puzzling anomaly. Lemur fossils discovered in India, but not in Africa. This observation was perplexing because Madagascar, the lemur's natural habitat, lies geographically closer to Africa. Sclater theorized that a now-sunken continent must have once bridged the gap, connecting India and Madagascar. He christened this lost land Lemuria, and a theory was born. Later proponents of the Lemuria hypothesis expanded upon Sclater's initial concept, suggesting that Lemuria had been the home of an extinct race of humans known as Lemurians. These beings, they claimed, possessed 4 arms, colossal bodies, and were the ancestors of both modern humans and lemurs. As scientific knowledge advanced, particularly in the fields of plate tectonics, evolutionary biology, and DNA analysis, the Lemuria theories were gradually disproven. Finally, our expedition leads us to the enigmatic realm of Agartha. Rooted in Eastern mysticism, a captivating legend speaks of a hidden kingdom nestled deep within the Earth's core. Agartha, it is said, connects the 4 corners of the world through a labyrinth of subterranean paths and tunnels. Legend places a secret entrance to Agartha, crafted by the Agarthans themselves, using advanced, undetectable technology somewhere within the Gobi Desert. Let's imagine a world far removed from our own, a world teeming with mysteries and forgotten civilizations. Some believe that beneath our feet, deep within the earth, lies Agartha, a realm existing to balance the energies of the surface world. While we rush through our lives, consumed by heightened emotions, Agartha is said to be a place of tranquility, a refuge of calm. Legend whispers that survivors of the lost city of Atlantis sought sanctuary here, continuing their existence within the Earth's core. Other more fantastical tales depict Agartha as a monster-infested land. But fear not, for modern science has dispelled these myths, revealing the Earth's core as a solid, intensely hot, iron ball. So, those expeditions to the planet's center? Perhaps best to cancel those travel plans. Now, prepare to be amazed by this. Neanderthal fiber technology. It might sound like something from a science fiction novel, but I assure you the concept is very real. In 2020, a team of dedicated scientists published groundbreaking research that forever altered our perception of our closest ancestors. A remarkable discovery in France sent ripples through the world of archaeology, and it wasn't an isolated incident. Let's rewind to the beginning. For a long time, Neanderthals were portrayed as stereotypical cavemen, figures akin to Fred Flintstone. Where did this image originate? When did we begin to believe that Neanderthals were intellectually inferior? Enter William King, a 19th century British geologist. King was the individual who bestowed the name Neanderthal upon these ancient humans. Based on the skeletal remains he examined, King declared the species unintelligent, an assessment that unfortunately shaped the perception of Neanderthals for centuries. However, a fragment of string, merely a quarter of an inch in length, dramatically changed everything. The location of this pivotal find was Abri du Maris, a small, arid river valley. Here, archaeologists unearthed a piece of cordage alongside a stone tool. These twisted fibers could have been utilized for a multitude of purposes, from crafting clothing to weaving fishing nets. In the prehistoric era, such technology represented a significant advancement, and the Neanderthals appear to have mastered it. Scientists had already established that these early humans extracted tar from birch bark and fashioned shell beads. There's even compelling evidence of Neanderthal art. Clearly, they were far from primitive. The discovery of this string and similar artifacts are revolutionizing our understanding of our ancestors. The field of archaeology is in constant flux. Consider the pyramids of Egypt, for example. Contrary to popular belief, they weren't constructed by hordes of laborers driven to exhaustion by pharaohs. The confusion began with Herodotus, the renowned Greek historian. In 500 BCE, he asserted that 100,000 men participated in the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza. However, he failed to specify their identities or their motivations. This omission gave rise to the myth of countless slaves toiling under the lash of a foreman, dragging enormous stone blocks. But Egyptologists, the scholars dedicated to studying the culture of ancient Egypt, offer a different perspective. Recent excavations have revealed a workers' village, providing a more nuanced account. Yes, there is evidence of physical exertion evident in the workers' bones, but the construction industry is demanding even today. It required nearly 6 years and a workforce of 12,000 to complete the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building. In ancient Egypt, a workforce 3 times larger completed the Great Pyramid in approximately 2 decades. An impressive feat of ancient engineering, wouldn't you agree? The overseers of the pyramid construction project took good care of the Egyptian workers. Their diet was rich in protein, they received medical attention, and they were adequately compensated for their efforts. In fact, they lived better than much of the non-working population. Furthermore, they resided with their families near the construction site. Archaeologists have gleaned these details from the discovery of bakeries and dormitories containing bread jars and other provisions. It appears the pharaohs were relatively benevolent employers, and the job market wasn't as grim as some might believe. Detailed papyrus records of the construction, inscribed in hieroglyphs, were also kept. You and I would struggle to decipher these symbols that resemble images. Egyptologists faced a similar challenge. For over a millennium, this form of writing had fallen into disuse, and there wasn't an English ancient Egyptian dictionary available to translate the words. However, everything changed in 1822. Decades earlier, the French discovered a broken slab of black granite. This stone bore a single text in 3 scripts: ancient Greek, Egyptian hieroglyphs, and Demotic. Demotic was also an Egyptian language, but written in a simplified script. Scientists dated the stone back to 196 BCE. The text contained a religious proclamation. Jean-François Champollion, a brilliant French philologist and Orientalist, was the first to crack the code. You see, the knowledge of ancient Greek had been preserved. Imagine a moment of revelation, a breakthrough that unlocks the secrets of the past. It happened when a brilliant Frenchman meticulously compared Greek letters with the enigmatic symbols of the Egyptian script. And then, like a flash of lightning, understanding struck. The ability to decipher hieroglyphs was finally within reach. The key to this monumental achievement, the Rosetta Stone, a fragment of granite whose discovery resonated far beyond the realm of archaeology. The very name Rosetta Stone has become synonymous with a crucial discovery that unlocks a long-standing puzzle. Think of it as a game. A symbol represents a specific message, and the challenge lies in decoding that message by matching each symbol with its corresponding letter. This, in essence, is what those pioneering scientists accomplished with the Rosetta Stone over 2 centuries ago. But what about Europe? What is its oldest deciphered language? It bears the rather unassuming name of Linear B, a script used to write Mycenaean Greek. Remarkably, it predates the ancient Greek alphabet by centuries. And its origins? You might have guessed it, Linear A. Over 3,000 years ago, during the Late Bronze Age, the people of Crete employed Linear B. But their civilization, along with the knowledge of their script, mysteriously vanished. Linear B was lost, forgotten, its very existence unknown. That was until the early years of the 20th century. Enter Sir Arthur Evans, a British archaeologist who embarked on an excavation of a sprawling palace complex at Knossos on the island of Crete, Greece. This was the heart of the Minoan culture, the creators of the enigmatic Linear A script. The palace itself was a marvel, boasting some 300 rooms adorned with vibrant frescoes depicting dolphins, griffins, and bulls. These images captivated Evans, but the most significant discovery was initially overlooked. Thousands of clay tablets, hardened by the very fire that had destroyed the palace. These tablets were inscribed with the unknown language, Linear B. The scientific community would have to wait another half-century before Michael Ventris, an English architect and cryptographer, cracked the code. Ventris, a scholar of Greek and Latin, was captivated by the puzzle of Linear B. In 1952, he achieved the seemingly impossible. One of Ventris's most astounding revelations was that Linear B was an archaic form of Greek. Yet the mystery of Linear A remains unsolved. This writing system awaits its own Michael Ventris, a dedicated individual who can unlock its secrets. This person need not be a professional archaeologist. Take Basil Brown, for example. In 1939, he unearthed the richest early medieval tomb in Europe at Sutton Hoo, in southeastern England. This was no ordinary tomb constructed of stone. It was a full-sized ship, a vessel 3 times the length of a London double-decker bus. And this ship was laden with treasures. Deluxe hanging bowls, feasting vessels, golden dress accessories, and luxurious textiles. Archaeologists were also astonished by the discovery of silverware from distant Byzantium, modern-day Istanbul, Turkey. Even today, it's a considerable journey from Sutton Hoo. Imagine the cost and effort required to import a silver plate in the 7th century, when the ship was buried. According to archaeologists, the ship could not have been the work of the English. At that time, England did not exist. The inhabitants of the British Isles were the Anglo-Saxons. Perhaps the ship belonged to one of their kings. The acidic soil has dissolved any remains of the body. Or perhaps nobody was ever buried here. It could have been a cenotaph, a monument erected in honor of an important person. The mystery endures, but the finds at Sutton Hoo have illuminated the Dark Ages, revealing details of Anglo-Saxon society in Britain after the departure of the Romans. The English soil may yet yield further archaeological treasures. Imagine embarking on a once-in-a-lifetime round-the-world adventure. Your first stop is Europe, specifically Italy, the land of pasta, pizza, and gelato. And there it is, the world-renowned Leaning Tower of Pisa. You purchase a ticket and enter the crooked monument, preparing to ascend the 251 slippery steps. Take care as you climb and remember to imagine standing atop a magnificent bell tower, the air thin, the view breathtaking. The white marble under your feet gleams in the sunlight. A quick glance over the edge reveals the sprawling cityscape below. You've conquered the climb, reached the summit, and now, the perfect selfie awaits. This is the Leaning Tower of Pisa, one of Italy's most celebrated landmarks. As you ascended the winding staircase, your guide shared tales of its medieval origins. Construction began in the 12th century and stretched well into the 14th, a monumental undertaking spanning over 2 centuries. And yes, the burning question, has it always leaned? The answer is a resounding yes. The tower's troubles began almost immediately. By the time the 3rd floor was complete, the sinking had started. The very name Pisa whispers the reason. Derived from a Greek word meaning marshy land. The ground beneath is notoriously unstable, a treacherous mix of clay, mud, and sand. Architects have been locked in a battle to save the tower ever since those first stones were laid. Now, at the tower's apex, some 185 feet above the ground, you pause to absorb the panorama. How many terracotta rooftops can your eyes capture? Walking towards the south side, you might sense the ground drawing nearer. This is the direction of the lean. At its most precarious, the tower tilted at nearly 512 degrees. An astonishing angle that somehow defied gravity. Today, your guide will likely tell you the lean is less severe. In recent years, the world's finest architects and engineers have intervened, undertaking delicate construction work to prevent a catastrophic collapse. They carefully excavated tunnels, removing over 38 cubic meters of soil from beneath the tower's northern side. The result? A reduced tilt of approximately 4 degrees. So, if you're planning to capture that iconic photo where you appear to be single-handedly supporting the tower, now is the time. How long will it continue to lean? Only time will tell. Next, we journey to Rome, a city that is in itself a vast open-air museum, a place that demands to be experienced firsthand. The sun beats down, but fortune favors you. Today, you are stepping back in time to visit the baths of Caracalla. Prepare for an authentic glimpse into ancient Roman life. Your journey begins in what was once a bustling locker room. Imagination is key here, as towering brick walls, reaching 130 feet, are all that remain. In their day, Romans from all walks of life would dedicate an hour or two each day to these baths, a ritual performed after a long day's labor or before an evening meal. Imperial bath complexes like this one were often free, though a small admission fee may have been charged. Emerging from the locker room, visitors would enter a heated chamber for oil massages and invigorating scrubs. From there, some would proceed to one of two expansive exercise yards. Picture the scene. Elaborate marble porticos, fragments of mosaic floors shimmering with color. For those seeking intellectual stimulation, philosophers held court, and libraries offered a haven for the mind. And now, we arrive at the most awe-inspiring space, the caldarium. This circular steam-filled hot room measured an astonishing 115 feet in diameter. Within its walls were not one, but 7 heated pools. Above, a magnificent dome, supported by colossal granite columns, soared into the sky. The entire structure was a masterpiece of decoration, adorned with multicolored glass mosaics and the purest white marble. The complex also boasted an indoor Olympic-sized pool, its waters waist-deep. Today, only the reddish hues of brick and concrete walls remain, a testament to the passage of time. Emperor Caracalla, like many Roman emperors, commissioned this mega-complex, bringing joy and relaxation to the masses. Our journey continues, taking us across continents. After a long international flight, you arrive in Egypt, ready for camel rides and the sweet taste of juicy dried dates. Are you a fan of dates? Leaving your hotel before dawn, you head towards the outskirts of Cairo. The route takes you past the legendary Nile River, towards the West Bank. Keep your camera ready. In the distance, a colossal monument emerges, the Great Sphinx of Giza. Can you fathom that this creation is over 4,500 years old? As you draw closer, the Great Pyramids loom into view, just north of the Sphinx. Unlike the pyramids, the Sphinx was hewn directly from the bedrock of the Giza Plateau. To this day, it remains one of the world's largest statues, standing 66 feet tall and stretching 240 feet from its paws to its tail. The face of the Sphinx bears the marks of time and damage. Archaeologists believe it wasn't always so. A digital reconstruction reveals a drastically different appearance. At some point, the Sphinx's nose was violently removed, along with sections of its chin. Scholars propose that the statue represents the great pharaoh Khafre, which explains its human-like features. Imagine stepping back in time to ancient Egypt. See that dark, meticulously carved line around the eyes of the Sphinx? That wasn't just an artistic flourish. It represents the charcoal eyeliner worn by ancient Egyptians. And it was more than just a beauty statement. This dark liner served a vital purpose, protecting their eyes from the harsh ultraviolet rays of the desert sun. A practical solution for a land bathed in intense sunlight. Even today, researchers continue to debate a fascinating detail. Did the Sphinx originally sport a beard? Many believe that if the Sphinx was intended to depict a pharaoh, it almost certainly would have featured a braided beard, a symbol of royal power, now lost to the ravages of erosion or perhaps even human intervention. Look closely, and you can still discern the faint remains of a regal headdress adorning the Sphinx's head. These elaborate head ornaments were inextricably linked with power, authority, and royalty. Now, let's paint a picture in our minds. Imagine those stripes on the headdress, not in faded hues, but in vibrant blues and shimmering gold. This is likely how the Sphinx appeared in its full glory when it was first constructed. The sheer scale and intricate details suggest a monumental undertaking, likely spanning many years. The exact timeline of its construction remains a mystery, adding to its mystique. And if you're fortunate, a knowledgeable guide might lead you to one of the fabled secret chambers hidden within the statue itself. If they truly exist, that is, and aren't simply the stuff of legend. Now, let's journey to another cradle of civilization, the crystalline waters of Greece. Whether you arrive by sea or air, you're in for an unforgettable experience. Our destination, the heart of ancient archaeological wonders. We arrive at Mandrake Marina in Rhodes' main port. But hold on. Where are the towering monuments we expected? The legendary Colossus of Rhodes is nowhere to be seen at first glance. Sadly, this is because it was destroyed long ago, a victim of the relentless forces of nature. Before it tragically succumbed to a devastating earthquake, this colossal statue held a revered place as one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. If you've ever glimpsed an image of the Colossus, you might easily mistake it for the Statue of Liberty. And that's no accident. There's a profound connection between these two iconic symbols. Both were conceived and erected as potent emblems of freedom and independence. In fact, Lady Liberty is often hailed as the modern-day Colossus. The Colossus of Rhodes stood an imposing 100 feet tall, a breathtaking spectacle. But today, all that remains visible is a simple concrete jetty with a noticeable gap in its center. Now, conjure up an image in your mind. A massive bronze statue majestically straddling both ends of that bridge, a testament to human ingenuity and ambition. The Colossus was erected way back in the 3rd century BCE, a feat of engineering that reportedly involved the labor of some 900 camels. Tragically, the Colossus's reign was relatively short-lived. After standing for a mere 54 years, it was brought down by a catastrophic earthquake. The seismic forces were so intense that all that remained of the once majestic statue was a single enormous foot. Even in its ruined state, this fragment continued to draw visitors from far and wide, a poignant reminder of the Colossus's former grandeur. Now, as our journey draws to a close, it's time to head home. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of ancient wonders. Imagine a place lost in the vast expanse of the Pacific, a tiny volcanic island shrouded in mystery. Easter Island, or Rapa Nui, as it's known to its native people. We're not talking about a bustling tropical paradise here. This is one of the most isolated inhabited spots on Earth. Central Chile lies over 2,200 meters to the east, while French Polynesia is 2,600 meters to the west. The island itself, a mere 63 square miles, is entirely formed from ancient volcanic rock. But the volcanoes fell silent ages ago, leaving Rapa Nui's soil depleted of the vital nutrients that lava once provided. It's also a drier landscape than your typical tropical haven, and the deep surrounding waters made fishing a real challenge for the early settlers. No shallow lagoons or reefs teem with life here. So, how did they survive? The Rapa Nui people devised a clever farming technique: rock gardening. Imagine them carefully arranging rocks of all sizes across the barren soil. Between these rocks, they cultivated crops like sweet potatoes and taro. These rocks were more than just decoration. They acted as a shield, protecting the plants from the relentless winds and salty air. They also help to regulate the soil's temperature, keeping it warmer at night and cooler during the day. Crucially, the rocks slowly released essential minerals back into the soil, enriching it and fostering growth. Even today, some islanders still practice this ancient method, though it doesn't yield vast quantities of food. But it's a testament to human ingenuity. Similar techniques have been used in other challenging environments, from New Zealand to the Canary Islands and even the American Southwest, proving that humans can adapt and thrive in the face of adversity. But Easter Island holds more secrets than just ancient farming methods. It's also offering scientists new insights into the workings of the Earth's mantle. For years, the prevailing theory was that the mantle moved like a slow conveyor belt, carrying tectonic plates along for the ride. However, a groundbreaking study by geologists from Cuba, Colombia, and the Netherlands is challenging this long-held belief. Their weapon of choice? Zircon dating. Zircons are microscopic crystals that form when magma cools. These tiny time capsules contain traces of uranium, which decays into lead over vast stretches of time. By measuring the ratio of uranium to lead, scientists can determine the age of the zircons with remarkable accuracy, and what they discovered sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Some of the zircons were far older than anyone expected, a staggering 165 million years old. This is in stark contrast to the island itself, which is a mere 2.5 million years old. These ancient zircons, the scientists concluded, originated deep within the mantle, beneath the tectonic plate, brought to the surface by magma from ancient volcanic activity. Easter Island's volcanoes are part of a special group known as hotspot volcanoes. These volcanoes are fueled by plumes of hot rock rising from deep within the Earth. Normally, these plumes remain stationary, while the Earth's crust moves above them, creating chains of islands like the Hawaiian archipelago. But the presence of ancient zircons on a relatively young island suggests that the situation is far more complex than previously imagined. The evidence points to the existence of a massive volcanic plateau in the region of Easter Island some 165 million years ago. However, around 110 million years ago, this plateau was swallowed by the Earth, sinking beneath Antarctica due to tectonic subduction. The ancient zircon minerals remained behind, stubbornly refusing to be carried away by the supposed mantle conveyor belt. This suggests that the mantle near hotspot plumes isn't as fluid as scientists once thought. It's more like a stagnant pool. This revolutionary idea could fundamentally alter our understanding of plate tectonics and the Earth's internal dynamics. Now, let's journey forward in time to Rapa Nui, a remote island famed for its imposing Moai statues. But beyond these iconic figures, the island holds another enigma: the Rongorongo script. This mysterious writing system, found inscribed on 27 small wooden tablets, has baffled historians for centuries. Humans first arrived on this isolated island in the 12th century, establishing the Rapa Nui civilization. For centuries, they lived in relative isolation until the arrival of European explorers in the 1720s. With the Europeans came disease and disruption, decimating the native population. Later in the 19th century, a missionary named Eugene Arouard arrived on the island. He stumbled upon the wooden tablets, marveling at the intricate symbols carved into their surfaces. According to his accounts, these tablets were once plentiful, found in nearly every household. Tragically, only 27 of these precious artifacts survive today. Some are heavily weathered, burned, or otherwise damaged. These surviving tablets are now scattered across the globe, residing in museums and private collections. Some were even taken to Tahiti and then on to Europe, leaving none behind on Easter Island itself. 4 sacred tablets eventually found their way to a congregation in Rome, and it was these very tablets that played a crucial role in a recent breakthrough in deciphering the Rongorongo script. For decades, scholars have debated the true origin of the Rongorongo script. Was it a product of the islanders' own ingenuity, or did they adopt it from European visitors? To unravel this mystery, scientists turned to radiocarbon dating, a technique used to determine the age of organic materials. Imagine a world where every piece of wood, every fragment of charcoal, holds a secret clock. All organic matter contains trace amounts of carbon-14, a radioactive form of carbon. When an organism dies, it stops absorbing carbon-14, and the existing amount begins to decay at a predictable rate. By measuring the remaining carbon-14, we can estimate the age of the sample. This is how we determine the age of ancient fossils and artifacts, unlocking the secrets of the past. Researchers analyzed several Rongorongo tablets. 3 were crafted from trees that grew in the 18th or 19th century, a period that coincides with the arrival of Europeans. However, one tablet yielded a far more intriguing result. It predated European contact. This older tablet suggests 2 possibilities: that the Rapa Nui people independently invented their writing system. First, Rongorongo bears no resemblance to European languages. Deciphering it has proven to be an incredibly challenging task. Unlike English with its limited alphabet, Rongorongo boasts over 400 unique glyphs, none of which resemble any known writing system. Countless attempts have been made to decode this enigmatic script, but all have failed. Second, the carbon dating of one tablet places its origin before European arrival. But there's a catch. Radiocarbon dating only reveals when the wood was cut, not when the symbols were inscribed. And with only one such tablet, certainty remains elusive. Why would the Rapa Nui people preserve cut wood for centuries, only to later carve symbols onto it? Anthropologists and historians offer a plausible explanation. The scarcity of wood on Easter Island may have led the islanders to reuse old driftwood, potentially centuries older than the inscriptions themselves. This is known as the old wood problem in archaeology, a constant challenge when dating wooden artifacts. Furthermore, the tablet's remarkable preservation suggests careful maintenance, protecting it from wood-boring insects and humidity. Whatever message it holds, it was clearly of great importance to the Rapa Nui people. These are, of course, educated guesses. Scientists remain cautiously optimistic, suggesting that Rongorongo could be one of the few independent inventions of writing in human history, alongside Sumerian and Egyptian hieroglyphs. But more evidence is needed to definitively prove this theory. In the Rapa Nui language, Rongorongo means to recite or to declaim. Not everyone possessed the knowledge to write. Only a select few, likely the elite of Easter Island, primarily men, understood and could read this written language. After colonization, this knowledge was lost. Now, we are left to grapple with the challenge of deciphering these ancient symbols. Scholars disagree on the very nature of the script. We aren't even certain if it represents the Rapa Nui language itself. And even if it does, we don't know if it's a primitive form of writing or a fully developed system. In the 1990s, linguist Stephen Roger Fisher proposed a groundbreaking theory that Rongorongo tablets conveyed cosmogonies, narratives that explain the creation of the universe and the origins of natural phenomena. These cosmogonies are often found in ancient traditions and cultures, particularly those of East Polynesia. The tablets, according to Fisher, could have recounted the beginning of the world, the origins of all things, and the formation of celestial bodies and landscapes. This would also explain why only the wise elite possessed the ability to write. Fisher believed that Rongorongo was a hybrid system, blending logographic and semasiographic elements. This means that some symbols represented spoken words, while others represented ideas or concepts. Deciphering such a system would be incredibly difficult, requiring extensive memory and contextual knowledge, as the symbols function more as hints than complete expressions. However, other linguists challenged Fisher's ideas, pointing out flaws in his methodology. Sadly, Fisher could not definitively prove his hypothesis. Perhaps these are simply drawings. Looking at the tablets, we see recognizable forms: people, animals, plants, and geometric shapes. There are depictions of birds, one resembling a frigate bird, an animal associated with the deity Make in Rapa Nui culture. There are also fish, centipedes, and other creatures, or at least what appear to be stylized representations of them. Could it be that Rongorongo is merely art, a form of decoration? It's possible, but there are compelling arguments against this idea. The glyphs exhibit a high degree of complexity and structure. They also maintain a consistent style. For example, several symbols depict human-like figures with raised hands, a recurring motif that suggest a deeper meaning. Imagine a lost civilization, grappling with the complexities of written communication. It's as if deciphering their messages wasn't challenging enough. They employed a peculiar system known as reverse ostrophodon. Picture this. Each line of text is meticulously flipped upside down, a mirror image of the previous, creating a visual puzzle unlike anything else ever seen. The reason for this bizarre practice remains shrouded in mystery. Why would they invert the tablet after completing each line? Was it a ritual, a code, or simply a stylistic choice? Despite the enigma, one thing is clear. These ancient people possessed a sophisticated system, a structured approach to their symbolic language. The consistent application of reverse ostrophodon suggests a deliberate and organized method of communication. Furthermore, evidence indicates that these tablets were not mere ceremonial objects. They appear to have been used daily, serving some practical purpose in the lives of their creators. But there is hope on the horizon. The relentless march of technology offers a glimmer of possibility. Artificial intelligence and advanced computer programs are emerging as powerful tools in the quest to understand lost languages. Algorithms are being developed, designed to unravel the intricacies of ancient scripts and unlock the secrets they hold. Consider the Voynich manuscript, a centuries-old enigma that has baffled cryptographers and linguists for generations. AI is now being brought to bear on this perplexing text, searching for patterns and clues that have eluded human researchers for centuries. And then there's the Vesuvius Challenge. In 2023, this machine learning competition achieved a monumental breakthrough, cracking the code of the Herculaneum scrolls. These ancient documents, entombed in volcanic mud following the catastrophic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 79 AD, had remained unreadable for nearly 2 millennia. Imagine the fragile nature of these scrolls. In their physical state, they are incredibly delicate, virtually impossible to decipher without causing irreparable damage. But through the power of digital scanning and machine learning, these barriers have been overcome. The scrolls are painstakingly scanned, creating detailed three-dimensional models that can be virtually unrolled and examined. These scrolls offer a tantalizing glimpse into the intellectual world of the Roman Empire. It is believed that they once belonged to the personal library of Philodemus, an Epicurean philosopher. Within their charred pages lie invaluable insights into Greek philosophy and Latin literature. Each newly deciphered scroll promises to expand our understanding of this pivotal period in history. Now, let's journey to a remote island, a place where colossal stone figures stand sentinel against the endless horizon. The Moai statues of Easter Island. For centuries, these silent giants have stood tall and proud, testaments to the ingenuity and ambition of a lost civilization. But their story is also one of mystery. After an immense effort to carve these grand sculptures, the statue building abruptly stopped. Why? What cataclysmic event or gradual shift brought an end to this extraordinary endeavor? Easter Island, also known as Rapa Nui, lies in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, approximately 2,500 miles east of Tahiti. This isolated speck of land, encompassing a mere 63 square miles, is one of the most remote inhabited islands on Earth. Imagine the island as it once was, a verdant paradise cloaked in lush forests, teeming with diverse trees and ferns. But with the arrival of the first humans around 400 CE, the delicate balance of the ecosystem began to unravel. Slowly, inexorably, the forests began to disappear, felled by axes and consumed by fire. Then, around 1250 CE, the Moai began to emerge from the volcanic rock, dotting the landscape like silent sentinels. Carved from various types of stone, compressed volcanic ash, basalt, trachyte, and red scoria, these imposing figures were products of their environment. Volcanic rock was abundant, the raw material for the islanders' artistic vision. Once completed, the statues were often adorned with pumice, adding a final touch to their imposing presence. Each Moai is unique, possessing distinct facial features, with heavy brows and elongated noses. Their arms are typically carved close to their bodies, conveying a sense of stoic strength. Some are crowned with hats or top knots made of red scoria, adding to their already impressive stature. Nearly 900 Moai stand scattered across the island, varying in size and scale. The average height is around 13 feet, but some giants reach a staggering 33 feet, weighing as much as 82 tons, the equivalent of a blue whale. The purpose of the Moai remains a subject of intense debate. One prominent theory suggests that they represent and honor ancestors, chiefs, and other important figures in the island's history. Each statue may have served as a physical embodiment of a revered individual, a link between the living and the dead. However, without definitive written records or clear archaeological evidence, the true meaning of the Moai remains elusive. Imagine them standing proudly along the coast, watching over the settlements, their backs turned towards the spirit world of the sea. When European explorers first encountered the Moai in the 1700s, many had already been toppled, and the construction of new statues had ceased long ago. The scene spoke of a civilization in decline, a society grappling with internal strife or environmental challenges. The creation of these monumental statues required an extraordinary investment of time, resources, and human effort. Skilled craftspeople dedicated years to the slow, painstaking process of carving the Moai with rudimentary tools. A team of 6 individuals might toil for an entire year to complete just a single statue. And then came the challenge of transportation. Once carved, the Moai had to be moved to their designated locations, some as far as 11 miles away. How did these ancient people, without the benefit of modern technology, manage to move such massive objects across the rugged terrain? Carbon dating has revealed that the statue-building era began around 1250 CE. But then, abruptly, around 1500 CE, the work stopped. The sculptors simply abandoned their tools, leaving stone chisels lying where they were last used. Only a quarter of the statues were ever erected on their platforms. Half remained in the quarry, unfinished, while others lay abandoned along the transportation routes. Something dramatic happened on Easter Island, a turning point that caused the statue-building tradition to collapse. Numerous theories have been proposed to explain this sudden cessation, many revolving around the concept of deforestation. The islanders may have relied heavily on wood to transport the statues, using sleds, rollers, or even canoes. As the forest dwindled, the ability to move the Moai would have been severely compromised. The trees on Easter Island were slow-growing, and introduced rats devoured a large proportion of the seeds, hindering reforestation efforts. Wood was also essential for other purposes, including the construction of houses, boats, and even additional statues. The inhabitants of the island could have let's journey back in time to a remote island in the vast Pacific Ocean. Imagine Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, a place shrouded in mystery and home to colossal stone statues. What halted the creation of these iconic Moai? One compelling theory suggests that the islanders simply shifted their focus. As the population grew, so did the importance of specialized rock gardens. These weren't mere decorations. They were vital for the soil, providing warmth and essential nutrients. The construction of these gardens demanded immense time and effort, potentially diverting resources from the Moai project. But there's another layer to this enigma. Perhaps the beliefs of the people evolved. It's believed that the Moai were once seen as conduits to their ancestors, a tangible link to the past. However, over time, rituals emphasizing strength and resilience gained prominence. With these new rituals came a shift in artistic expression. The islanders began carving images of seabirds, elevating these creatures to a position of significance. The belief took hold that ancestors watched over them through these birds, diminishing the need for the imposing stone figures. Thus, the impetus to build more Moai faded. While these theories offer intriguing insights, the underlying issue was the island's limited capacity to sustain its growing population. Once a verdant paradise teeming with forests, Easter Island gradually transformed into a barren landscape. For centuries, the people relied on the bounty of the forests, but around 1550, as the trees disappeared, agriculture became paramount. The collaborative spirit that once fueled the construction of the magnificent monoliths gave way to competition between tribes vying for scarce resources. In this struggle for survival, the Moai became symbols of a bygone era, their significance diminished. They were toppled, deliberately cast down as a rejection of the past. Over the centuries that followed, all the statues were eventually pushed over, though not always intentionally. Neglect took its toll, and many succumbed to the forces of nature, collapsing under their own weight. Some even plunged into the ocean, finding their final resting place beneath the waves. But the story doesn't end there. In a remarkable turn of events, many of these fallen giants have been re-erected, offering a breathtaking spectacle for visitors from across the globe. If you ever find yourself on this isolated island, your first question might not be about their construction or transportation, but rather, how on earth did anyone even get here in the first place? Indeed, the Polynesians accomplished extraordinary feats of navigation. As early as 1500 BCE, these skilled seafarers embarked on voyages of exploration, utilizing the most advanced maritime technology of their time. They traversed the ocean in catamarans and outrigger boats, expanding their reach from Southeast Asia to encompass vast stretches of the Pacific. By 900 BCE, they had established settlements as far north as Hawaii, and by 1200 BCE, they had reached New Zealand in the south. Their eastward expansion culminated in the discovery and settlement of Easter Island. Within a few centuries, these intrepid sailors populated an area spanning thousands of square miles. They navigated by memorizing routes, relying on a deep understanding of the natural world. They observed the sun's path during the day and used the stars as their guide at night. Even on overcast days, when visual cues were obscured, they employed ingenious methods, studying ocean currents, wave patterns, and bioluminescence to discern the location of distant islands. These seafarers possessed an uncanny awareness of how islands and atolls create subtle disturbances in the air and sea. They also learned to interpret the behavior of birds. Some birds migrate long distances between islands, providing a visual link for travelers. Other species have specific feeding patterns, allowing sailors to determine their location based on where these birds were hunting. While Vikings often receive considerable recognition for their seafaring prowess, the early Polynesians relied solely on their intimate knowledge of nature. Their skills were so exceptional that in 1769, Captain James Cook, the renowned English explorer, enlisted the services of a Polynesian navigator, deeply impressed by his extensive understanding of the seas. Even more astonishing, this navigator was able to draw a map from memory, encompassing an area 2,000 miles wide and pinpointing 74 out of 130 islands within that region. Initially, Captain Cook sometimes disregarded the navigator's advice, but as their voyage progressed, he grew increasingly impressed, ultimately recognizing the Polynesians as perhaps the most widely dispersed people on Earth. Today, the giant heads of Easter Island are so iconic that they even have their own emoji. But their true meaning has remained an enigma for centuries, a puzzle that continues to captivate our imaginations. But the question remains, how did these colossal figures come to stand where they do? How were they moved? The Moai are not monolithic. Each statue is an assembly of distinct components: the imposing yellow body, a crown or topknot fashioned from red scoria, and eyes inlaid with white coral and a pupil of obsidian. Nearly 1,000 of these statues were sculpted. The primary material, volcanic tuff, was sourced from a quarry nestled within the confines of an extinct volcano. This stone, relatively soft and workable, presented its own challenge: transportation. This difficulty likely explains the presence of over 300 unfinished moai abandoned within the quarry itself. The completed moai, however, stand sentinel, facing inland toward the villages, seemingly watching over the descendants of their creators. The process began with the statues being carved in a prone position. Once the form was complete, the sculptors detached the statue from the bedrock, carefully maneuvering it down the slope. It was then raised upright for the final detailing. With the carving finished, the monumental task of moving the moai to its designated platform commenced. Anyone who has ever moved houses understands the physical exertion involved. Now, picture yourself relocating a stone giant, a sculpture weighing as much as a substantial house, across 3 miles of rugged terrain without the aid of modern machinery. The Rapa Nui people must have devised an ingenious method. Scientists have attempted to replicate this process, seeking to unlock the secrets of Moai transportation. Early experiments involved dragging Moai replicas on wooden sleds, fueled by the now discredited theory that the island was once abundant with palm trees. The most compelling experiment involved using ropes to walk the statue upright, rocking it back and forth along the route. This method aligns with local legends, which speak of the Moai walking from the quarry to their final destinations. Of course, such a feat demanded a well-maintained road network. In the early 20th century, researcher Catherine Routledge identified an ancient network of pathways, some 800 years old, radiating from the quarry. These roads, approximately 15 feet wide, were initially believed to be ceremonial routes, not merely transport conduits. Routledge's theory, however, was largely dismissed at the time. Decades later, the famed Norwegian explorer and archaeologist Thor Heyerdahl proposed that these roads were constructed solely for Moai transport, suggesting that some statues were abandoned along the way. However, research in 2010 revealed that the statues were not randomly discarded. They had, in fact, reached their intended destinations, each positioned upon a hidden platform. Furthermore, the U-shaped profile of the roadbeds would have made dragging the immense statues incredibly difficult. Today, roughly 15.5 meters of these ancient roads remain visible, even discernible from satellite imagery. It appears Catherine Routledge was correct. These roads were likely pilgrimage routes leading to a sacred volcano, with the Moai serving as monumental signposts along the way. Halfway across the world, in southern England, stands another imposing stone enigma, Stonehenge. Was it a massive acoustic illusion, a symbol of unity, an ancient burial ground, or something more? Scientists continue to debate its purpose. Over more than 500 years, Neolithic builders erected this awe-inspiring structure, comprising roughly 100 stones arranged in a circle. Millions of tourists flock to witness it each year. To protect this ancient site, modern roads that once encroached upon the landmark have been carefully sunk below ground level. Archaeologists, while hoping to uncover traces of an older road beneath the modern one, held modest expectations. However, upon removing a layer of asphalt, they unearthed two parallel ditches, aligned almost perpendicularly to the road. These ditches connected sections of what archaeologists term the avenue, the ancient processional pathway leading to Stonehenge. This discovery provides further evidence that ancient peoples visited the monument for specific purposes, likely involving ceremonies and rituals. Another intriguing discovery, made during a particularly dry summer, revealed 3 parched patches within the stone circle. These marks suggest the former presence of 3 massive boulders, indicating that Stonehenge may have once formed a complete circle. In 2021, archaeologists made another remarkable find: a Roman road submerged in the Venetian lagoon. Stretching for nearly 4,000 feet along the seabed, its existence proves Roman presence in the area before rising sea levels inundated the landscape. This discovery supports the theory that a significant settlement existed here centuries before Venice was established in the 5th century CE. The ancient Romans were renowned for their engineering prowess, and their road-building skills extended even to the most challenging terrains. Scans reveal that this ancient road was constructed directly on the beach, a testament to their skill and ingenuity. Imagine a village frozen in time, a snapshot from 1,000 years ago. Remnants of meals, half-eaten, still sit upon the tee. Imagine a moment frozen in time. Personal belongings, tables set for a meal, all abandoned in haste. We find ourselves in a prehistoric Pompeii, perfectly preserved beneath a blanket of volcanic ash. It was in 2011 that researchers unearthed this remarkable village in what is now El Salvador. They believe that over 1,400 years ago, a vibrant Maya community named Sarin was deep in preparations for a grand celebration. The entire village had gathered, focused on the main temple, readying it for a vital ritual. Then, disaster struck. A nearby volcano erupted without warning. The 200-plus residents had no time to gather their belongings, no time to think. Their only option was survival, to flee the plaza and escape southward along an elevated road known as a sakbai. They ran for their lives, desperately trying to outpace the suffocating plumes of volcanic ash. That sakbai road was more than just an escape route. It was a lifeline. While most Sakbe roads were constructed with an outer layer of stones, this one was uniquely made of ash. A cruel irony, considering the circumstances. This discovery proves that the Maya were resourceful builders, utilizing whatever materials were available to them, not just stones. Now, let's journey to Jerusalem, where archaeologists made a fascinating discovery while excavating an ancient street. Several coins were unearthed, and upon examining their minting dates, a stunning realization emerged. The road had been constructed during the time when Pontius Pilate governed Judea under Roman rule. As the local authority, it's almost certain that Pilate himself commissioned the construction of this road. Pilgrims likely traversed this very pathway to reach the Temple Mount for worship. This grand pathway, built with over 10,000 tons of limestone, stretched almost as wide as a London bus is long, and it stood there for 2,000 years. Finding such an extravagant road is rare, and the reason behind Pilate's lavish expenditure remains unclear. Perhaps it was an attempt to curry favor with the city's inhabitants, a way to gain their approval. Or maybe it was a bold display of wealth and power, a message that Rome's influence was absolute. Let's cross the ocean to North America, where the Old North Trail whispers tales of ancient travelers. For 10,000 years, this highway served the continent's inhabitants. First on foot, then with the aid of dogs, and eventually on horseback, countless travelers journeyed along its paths long before the arrival of the first Europeans. Even during the frigid grip of the last ice age, they used it to transport trade goods, visit distant relatives, seek out partners, or simply explore the vast unknown. Researchers continue to unearth evidence that confirms the Blackfoot Indian stories and legends about this ancient trail. It may even have been the route that facilitated one of the most significant human migrations in history. The people who crossed the Bering Land Bridge from Asia approximately 15,000 years ago and settled in North America may have utilized the ice-free corridor along the Rocky Mountains, which later became a vital section of the Old North Trail. Now, we travel to Japan, where the Nakasendo Highway was forged in the 17th century during the Edo period. This vital artery connected Kyoto and Tokyo, stretching an impressive 310 miles. The road snaked across formidable mountain ranges and descended onto the plains below. It was one of the 5 principal routes used by feudal lords and their families to travel to the capital. Along the way, 69 post stations offered weary travelers a place to rest and spend the night. The Nakasendo Highway was designed for horses and pedestrians, as the Japanese did not commonly use carts. Today, you can still walk sections of this historic route, retracing the steps of countless travelers from centuries past. Now, let's shift gears and embark on an art history journey. Our quest to unravel the enigma of whether ancient statues were always the stark white we see today. We'll visit renowned museums and even venture back in time to catch a glimpse of these sculptures as they originally appeared. Our journey begins in New York City. We ascend the iconic steps of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Met, and enter this colossal institution. As we stroll down the aisle, we arrive at the hall housing one of the world's most extensive collections of ancient Greek and Roman statues. Admiring the vast array of sculptures, one thing is immediately apparent. They are predominantly white. This seems logical, as white marble was their primary material. For centuries, historians, archaeologists, and scholars have generally accepted this as fact. But were these statues always white? Until recent decades, this question rarely arose. However, in the 1980s, a groundbreaking discovery challenged this long-held assumption. Researchers unearthed an ancient Greek statue that bore unmistakable traces of pigmentation. This revelation sparked a new line of inquiry. Were all ancient statues originally painted? Let's examine this particular work of art closely. This 3rd century BCE Greek statue was found to be almost entirely painted, remarkably preserved in its original form. Even now, it's easy to discern remnants of the original pink hues, along with hints of blue and red paint. The surprising truth is that this statue is not an anomaly, it represents the norm. It turns out that ancient civilizations routinely painted their sculptures with vibrant, eye-catching colors. Somehow, over the course of history, this knowledge was lost or forgotten. According to researchers, the use of pigment in sculptures was a way to bring their representations closer to real life. Imagine stepping back in time, not just decades, but centuries, millennia even. We find ourselves surrounded by vibrant hues, a world awash in color. It's a stark contrast to the monochrome world of classical art we often see in museums, isn't it? But what if those pristine white statues aren't telling the whole story? What if the art of antiquity was far more colorful than we ever imagined? Let's journey back to understand this mystery. Why are our museums filled with seemingly endless rows of white statues? The answer, in part, lies with Michelangelo. This iconic Italian sculptor, the master behind the David and the Sistine Chapel ceiling, stands as a giant in art history. Michelangelo was a leading light of the Renaissance. The Renaissance, a transformative period where European artists, thinkers, and scientists rediscovered the artistic and philosophical treasures of ancient Greece and Rome. Artists like Michelangelo meticulously studied Roman sculptures, captivated by their lifelike forms and the seeming purity of their white marble. However, there was a crucial piece of information missing. They lacked the technology to determine if the colored pigments that might have adorned these sculptures had simply faded over centuries of burial or exposure to the elements. Imagine that imposing statue of Laocoon and his sons, potentially featuring snakes painted in vivid colors and cloaks of brilliant hues. When Renaissance artists sought to emulate the ancients, they too embraced the bare marble, carving directly into the stone and leaving their creations unpainted. Perhaps they believed this was how the ancients had always worked. The masterpieces of Michelangelo and his contemporaries profoundly influenced generations of sculptors, perpetuating this perception of white marble as the standard for classical art. Yet the evidence of color on ancient statues was not entirely absent. For over a century, some researchers have known that ancient sculptures were not originally uniformly white. Some studies even suggest hints of this discovery emerged much earlier. Then, in the early 1980s, archaeologist Vincent Brinkmann, while a student at the Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich, made a groundbreaking discovery. He developed a technique capable of detecting polychromy, the art of painting in multiple colors, on ancient Greek statues. Brinkmann was astonished. Why wasn't this widely discussed? As it turns out, the first hints that ancient statues might have been colorful emerged long before Brinkmann's work, during the excavation of Pompeii in the 1700s. As we know, the Roman city of Pompeii, nestled in southern Italy, was tragically entombed by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. While the city was devastated, the volcanic ash miraculously preserved much of its structure. This provided a treasure trove for art historians and archaeologists seeking to understand ancient Roman life. Researchers unearthed numerous frescoes depicting scenes from everyday life. One particular painting showed an artist painting a sculpture. This observation was documented by Johann Joachim Winckelmann, a renowned art historian considered by many to be the father of art history. Now, let's turn our attention to another iconic statue. To see it in person, you'd have to travel to Rome and visit the Vatican museums. There, you'll find a classic representation of Caesar Augustus, the founder of the Roman Empire and its first emperor, a truly significant figure. The sculpture is known as the Augustus of Prima Porta. You may have encountered it in a history textbook. It's almost always depicted in stark white marble. However, archaeological discoveries from the 1860s reveal a much more colorful reality. According to these findings, the Augustus of Prima Porta originally featured a crimson tunic, yellow armor, and a purple cloak. It's crucial to remember that colors in antiquity were derived solely from natural sources. Purple, for instance, was an exceptionally difficult color to produce. It was extracted from the mucus of a rare species of snail. Thus, anyone who used purple in their art or clothing signaled their power and wealth. This evidence strongly suggests that ancient statues were not always white. However, judging by the appearance of modern museums, there seems to have been a lack of widespread interest in exploring the polychromy of ancient statues. But let's return to Vincent Brinkmann, the archaeologist we mentioned earlier. He has been diligently collecting data on polychromy since the 1980s. Imagine stepping into the studio of Vinzenz Brinkmann, a man dedicated to bringing the vibrant colors of ancient statues back to life. He doesn't just display dull white stone, he recreates the vivid hues that once adorned these masterpieces, challenging our modern perceptions of classical art. The process is anything but simple. Brinkman employs cutting-edge technology alongside traditional artistry. He meticulously creates 3D plaster copies of the statues, providing a blank canvas for his work. Then, with the skilled hand of an artist and the keen eye of a detective, he and his wife painstakingly paint each replica. But how does he know what colors to use? This is where the magic happens. Brinkman uses ultraviolet, UV light to reveal hidden secrets. Certain pigments, invisible to the naked eye under normal light, fluoresce under UV light, exposing traces of the original colors. Imagine the thrill of uncovering a hidden splash of crimson or a faded streak of gold. Take, for example, the reconstruction of a marble archer in full equestrian attire. Observe the vibrant colors that bring this figure to life. To accurately recreate the archer's appearance, Brinkman and his team delved deep into the history of the region where the original statue was discovered. They understood that colors held cultural significance, and by combining this knowledge with UV technology, they were able to produce a reconstruction that is as authentic as possible. It may seem jarring compared to our preconceived notions of Greek art, but this is believed to be a faithful representation of the original. Brinkman argues that we shouldn't be surprised by the use of bright colors in ancient Western civilizations. After all, the Romans and Greeks drew heavily from the artistic traditions of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and Asia. Consider the iconic Egyptian Sphinx. We often see it as a monolithic, sand-colored statue, weathered by millennia. However, modern studies and virtual reconstructions reveal a different story. A sphinx ablaze with color. The body is believed to have been painted a terracotta hue, while the regal headdress was adorned with golden and blue pigments. These were not arbitrary choices. These colors held deep significance in Egyptian society, deemed appropriate for depicting a pharaoh, a god-king. Now, let's shift gears and join a pair of modern-day treasure hunters. Picture this: a dark, stormy night in a Kansas cornfield. Rain lashes down. Lightning illuminates the scene. But these two are undeterred. They are digging, driven by the promise of buried treasure. Suddenly, the shovel strikes something hard. Could it be? A treasure chest. They dig frantically, unearthing not gold doubloons, but a piece of a ship's engine. An engine? What is this doing here? Far from any ocean or major waterway, beneath the seemingly endless fields of Kansas, they have stumbled upon a sunken ship. But how? Enter David Hawley, a modern-day explorer with an unusual passion. Searching for shipwrecks far from the sea. He has dedicated years to this pursuit, driven by the thrill of adventure and the potential for uncovering lost riches. The holds of these ships could contain chests filled with gold, ancient artifacts, and valuable antiques. David believes you don't need to venture into the ocean depths to find a sunken ship. One might be buried in your own backyard. But how do these vessels end up entombed beneath fields and farms? To understand this phenomenon, let's examine the story of the steamboat Great White Arabia. According to historical records and newspaper accounts, this ship was laden with approximately 200 tons of cargo when it sank in 1856. Local legends whispered that the ship lay buried somewhere northeast of Kansas City. The reason for its landlocked location? Deliberate alterations to the Missouri River's riverbed and channels during the second half of the 19th century. Engineers intentionally narrowed the river to increase the speed of the current, allowing steamboats to navigate more efficiently. In the 19th century, steamboats were the lifeblood of transportation, carrying passengers and goods across the vast American frontier. Before the advent of railroads, they extended the reach of civilization across the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, delivering essential supplies to remote communities. Speed was paramount, hence the river modifications. On September 5, 1856, the Arabia was navigating one of these artificially narrowed channels when disaster struck. The ship collided with a submerged tree snag, tearing a hole in its hull. Water rushed in, and despite the successful evacuation of all passengers, the steamer and its valuable cargo quickly sank to the muddy bottom of the Missouri River. Over time, the river's course shifted, leaving the Arabia buried beneath layers of silt and sediment. The soil level rose, the ground dried, and eventually, decades later, a cornfield emerged above the sunken vessel. In the 1980s, a farmer tilled this land, completely unaware of the historical treasure hidden beneath his feet. David Hawley, a student of sunken ship lore, knew that hundreds of steamboats had met their watery graves in Missouri's rivers. But the Arabia, with its rumored cargo of gold and riches, held a special allure. The cornfields of Kansas stretched endlessly, but David Hawley was determined to find it.